Sure, I don't see why not. If Japanese middle-aged men can fall in love with anime dolls, and what have you? I don't think it's much of a stretch for a person to fall in love with a robot, especially not considering how rapidly AI keeps developing and how much more realistically human some of these companions are starting to look and act with every year. What with synthetic materials constantly improving and lifelike flesh tones now being achievable after being very difficult to do in the past. Some people can't fall in love with inanimate objects, and if they can do that, it shouldn't be all that difficult to fall in love with a robot that looks, sounds, feels and thinks like a human. So, can you fall in love with robot? Yes, you can. In fact, you can fall in love with anything. As long as your emotional needs are met, there are no limits to whom or what you can be in love with. Today, men who date robots are probably seen as very desperate and immature. But as the technology continues to develop and progress, I not only think that having relationships with synthetic machines will find a practical use in therapy, but it will also become accepted as a completely normal social thing to do in general. It is a very tricky issue. However, morally speaking, how intelligent and self-aware will a robot have to be before it ceases to be just a machine and can be considered a being in its own right? Some have argued that having access to robot companions could reduce the need of prostitution. But if a robot has a fully independent mind, is there any difference between sleeping with it and a normal organic human? I don't think there is. To me, creating a mechanical life is no different than conceiving human children. Their building blocks may be different, but a robot who learns from experience and mistakes is no different than a human child doing the same. The only difference is that a damaged robot can be repaired, whereas a human is either alive or dead. If that happens, are we really that different from the machines? Are we all that different now? The human is a biological machine. That's why we know how to build machines in the first place. Our computer brains allow us to do that. We figure out things, we build things, invent new things to build. In that sense, I think we might actually be closer to machines in some ways because they are a construction of our biological minds, whereas our biological children are a result of primitive and instinctive behavior. It takes no thought at all to conceive a human child. The same cannot be said for a machine. A lot of love, care and great detail goes into the creation of a robot. We are essentially creating mechanical copies of ourselves. Why would we do that if we only saw them as toasters? Why go to all the trouble of designing and building these things if we don't have a need for something more complex and personal than a mindless slave who can perform menial tasks and chores for us? I think we create these lifelike copies of ourselves not only as a way of figuring out how our brain works, but because we don't want to be alone. We need to feel that there's something else out there that's as intelligent as we are, and since we haven't been able to find it yet, we have decided to create it for ourselves. An infertile couple can still have a normal life they want to by adopting a robot child. The child may not physically grow up, but there is nothing stopping the memory banks from being uploaded to a new body when and if they wish to do so. Old people who have lost all the relatives and friends can suddenly have the best friend they ever had, someone who doesn't mind playing 100 rounds of bingo per day. And lonely and disabled people have a chance to develop relationships with robots who don't judge them or take their social status into consideration. The only thing we have to remember is that robots have feelings too. You are free to fall in love with them or anything else you want to, but the decision to reciprocate your feelings belongs to them. So that's all for today's video. I hope that you liked the video and learned something new from this video. Like the video and comment down below. Are you also in love with any robot AI? And don't forget to subscribe the channel for future updates.